And I think one of the gravest mistakes made in modern history has been made by Benjamin Netanyahu and his government by retaliating as they have done and by bombarding ceaselessly populated areas, which is almost invariably an indefensible action. I think Israel has almost certainly lost in the great nations of the great democratic nations of the world, lost an advantage it once had, a moral advantage and many other advantages, and I think it's in graver danger than it's ever been. Not military danger, but political and diplomatic danger. I think it was and continues to be a catastrophe, and I remain dismayed by the fact that so many on the supposed right have, who can not be appalled by Hamas and who can not be opposed to its aims and intentions, but have not found it, I won't say equally worrying because it's not a question of equalities, but have not found it extraordinarily worrying that Israel has been making such a tremendous, disastrous diplomatic and political mistake for so long. I just want to remember that because it's the bit of the conversation we had here last time that I most deeply remember, and one at the time for which I faced, as I so often do, quite a lot of severe criticism. I think what I said was right, and I still do.
I suppose the question I would come up with is where to for Israel, and what are the options really? Had they done nothing?
I'm not saying nothing, because I don't think nothing was possible. But I think that, as I say, opening a military attack upon the Gaza Strip. First of all, it was not going to release the hostages, and it hasn't. Secondly, it was not going to destroy Hamas, and it hasn't. Secondly, it was not going to strengthen Israel's position vis-a-vis either the Arab world or Iran, and it hasn't. Thirdly, it was going to do the most immense political and moral damage to the country. Doubtless there were inventive things which Israel could have done, though I think the power in the weeks immediately after the pogrom, the power of just saying, we are not like this. We do not respond in the way in which we were attacked. We do not kill civilians. We do not kill innocents. We're here because this country exists, Israel exists because of the hatred for Jews in Europe in the 1930s. That's why it's here, because there was nowhere else to go, because for many people there was nowhere to go. That's why it's here. You've just seen a demonstration that is still as true as it was in 1945. And just to say that, to go before the United Nations, and we are not doing this. Okay, Israel has actually fantastic defenses against missile attack. It had a duty after that pogrom hugely to strengthen the basic border defenses between itself and Gaza. But you cannot. Have you been to Gaza? It's so dense. You cannot bombard it without the certainty that innocents will die.
Well, Hamas knows that too.
Of course, they know that. But in which of these policies would have done more harm to Hamas? I don't have any doubt.
I must say it's very distressing to me that many people now are prepared to gloss over the evil behaviour of Hamas and the way they behave.
Well, that's because it's been completely obscured by what's happened since in Gaza, and it barely gets mentioned now. Whereas if Netanyahu had not followed this policy, and again, there's another problem here for the Israeli left, who have for so many years, because this river of fire that runs between them and the Israeli right, have sought to exclude Netanyahu from power and remove him from power and generally declared him as an enemy. I think probably up until recently unjustly, and as a result have pushed him, in my view, into the arms of some of the appalling people who now form his government. If they'd been more willing to recognise that he did represent a genuine strand of real opinion in Israel and to coalesce with him, then I don't think this would have happened. But they weren't, and I think this is a very important reflection in politics on how much damage it can sometimes do to refuse to talk to your opponents.
I think there's a real danger that Israel may simply not survive.
I think there's a real danger of that too. I think it has never been greater in my lifetime.
And I think that would be a terrible outcome.
Well, of course it would, yes, because the reason for its existence will remain.
Exactly.
And probably be greater.
Be greater, if anything. It seems
to me to be the pressing subject in foreign policy.